Hello. So decided to make a video real quick because I watched a movie last night about what it's like to grow up in East Berlin, kind of sort of, or escaping, not East Berlin, East Germany, escaping it. So the movie's called Balloon. And if you're interested in this topic, what it's like to be over there, and it gives like really good insights of like how everything looked back then, and how controlled everybody was, right? And how dangerous it was trying to escape. So I was born in East Berlin, and watching that movie last night like totally got me super emotional, and like definitely I have a daughter, so like the birth of my daughter, of course, and that day when the Berlin Wall fell is like best day of my life so far, like those two, right? I wouldn't be here right now. I probably would be killed it because I would have tried to escape, and I don't know if I would have made it. Hopefully I would have, but yeah, anyways, I would have definitely tried. Like I cannot comprehend how you can lock up people and then even kill your own people because they don't want to be locked up. Like, wow, just blows my mind, the whole process of that, and how people can do that to each other just makes no sense to me. Anyway, so this is totally different from any of the other videos, but I get asked a lot, what was it like to grow up in East Germany, right? Behind the wall. And so I thought, because I just saw that movie, I thought it'd be kind of cool to talk about it, and then anybody who's interested in the subject can watch this. And I gotta say, so I was born in the 80s, 1980, so I was only 9 years old when the wall fell. So I thankfully didn't experience it as badly as you can see in that movie if you watch that. There's other good movies too, Goodbye Lenin, and there's another really good one about the Stasi and stuff. I don't remember the name right now. But yeah, there's some good movies out there if you're interested in this topic. And so yeah, but thankfully, like I said, I was still really young in a way, old enough to kind of like experience a lot, right? Like to kind of understand and see and notice things, but not too old yet to really feel the effects of like the Stasi and all of those things. Stasi, by the way, was the secret police, right? They everybody was watched basically. So and we didn't have like the technology like we do today, so they would like make little holes in your wall and watch you through there, or they would come into your apartment and like put like listening devices in everything and all kinds of stuff. So they were like the most crazy secretive police back then. Leave it to the Russians. And oh yeah, and backing up real quick, so what happened was, how we even end up behind the wall was that after World War II, the Allies that defeated Hitler, they decided, since it was Second World War, at least this is how it was told to me, the way I'm explaining it right now, so it might not be 100% accurate, like the way I'm saying it. So look more into it if you're like really into history. But yeah, so what happened was, so then the Allies, France, England, and America, and Russia decided they have to like occupy Germany with military bases. So kind of like to keep a hand over Germany, right? So they started occupying Berlin, and they separated, like had embassies there and military bases. And Russia had gotten East Germany, so gave them a little piece. to have control over. And then I believe all the other countries also kind of had control over those areas, certain areas. But the East belonged to Russia. And but a lot of the people, especially like scientists, doctors, like all the educated, smart people, they didn't want to be communists, right? They didn't want to be controlled by the Russians, so they ended up going to the West. And Russia didn't like that, and because all the good people were leaving, so they decided they have to build a wall, and so they built the wall. And then I grew up on the east side, so yeah, and it was not fun. So one good thing was, I would say though, is the people, the connectedness of the people. Like everybody helped each other out, and like if you would like go to the store or something, and somebody would walk in front of you, and this sounds like super stupid because it's like such a little thing, little detail, but you would never have to worry about like a door closing in your face, you know. You could just walk, and knowing the person in front of you will hold it open for you, right? And everybody did that for each other. And then we didn't have, I don't think we had taxis. Not really 100% certain if we did or not, but I know there weren't a lot of cars anyways, because they were so expensive to buy, and you had to like sign up to get one, and it took forever till you got a car. And so when we wanted to like go somewhere by car, we would like just wait on the road, like stick our finger out, right, like this, and hope that somebody would stop. And you would have like coffee from West Berlin, or like a bottle of like corn as like a schnapps, some liquor, or something with you that you would give that person that gives you a ride, right? As a like a thank you gift. So we do things like that, right? Like, so people were really helping each other out. But of course, you couldn't also trust a lot of people, because they could have been in the Stasi, right? The Stasi, you never knew really who was in the Stasi or not, because there's secret police. So it even happened that sometimes people were married to be observed, right? And so you thought you're in love, but then really that person was in the Stasi watching you. So yeah, Stasi is a good topic if you're interested in this to research. But yeah, anyways, so the way I grew up was, we lived at first when I was little, I think until I was 7, we lived in like this 1-bedroom apartment, and we had coal ovens, like they were like out of Kachelofen, we call it. They're ceramic, made out of ceramic or whatever, and like these ugly brown huge things, and you would have to heat it with coal. And so once, I couldn't tell you the exact schedule, either once a month or once a week, a truck would come by and dump like the coal outside of that apartment building. And then we all had like metal buckets and stuff, and we would go downstairs, and then we would get our share, and we all had basements. So you would go then and dump it into your basement. And then, yeah, so then when you needed coal, you would just go to the basement, go up into your apartment, and you feed the oven with the coal. And it's like a distinct smell to like that coal, and yeah, crazy, crazy memories. But what happened is like, you only had like, you had to ration your coal, right? And then Berlin winters, especially back then, were ice cold, and there was only one in the apartment, so we didn't even have one in the bedroom. So we would just like heat it in the evening, but then you didn't leave it on or whatever, right? It's a fire, and so we'd just go to bed, and then you were just always cold. Like the winters were horrible. Like you were just always freezing. We didn't have warm water either. So what we had like this little round gas container, and you would heat that up, and then that would heat up your water. And so that's how you would like get hot water, or oftentimes we would just boil, like we had like a big pot, we would just boil water in there. But we didn't even have a toilet in that apartment. So we had a shower, but not a toilet. So we had like a shared toilet outside in the hallway with other neighbors. Disgusting and horrible. Ugh. And then we also, oh yeah, that's the apartment. So yeah, that really sucked. Yeah, my parents would like sleep on the floor in the bedroom, and then they had like a big closet kind of separate, and then I had my bed in there, and then we had my sister after she was born in like a crib also, so we all slept in that same room. And since we didn't have like a bathtub or anything, and we never got to take like baths or whatever, so when we would go to my aunt's house, she had 6 kids. But I think at that time when I would always go over there, 2 of her kids were already moved out. So only 4 were living with them still. And so one was way older, and then the other ones were like my age and my sister's age. And so when we would go there, they had like that water heater too. They would heat up the water. They had a bathtub. And so when we were there spending the night, we would take a bath there sometimes, but one after another. So, and we weren't really allowed to wash our hair in it because that would like get the water too dirty or something. So, my cousins would go in, and then I think maybe me and my sister had to go in after them and stuff. Disgusting when you think about it now. But it was like still awesome to us in a way because it was still like a luxury, you know? Crazy. And I just remember always being cold. We had like these big down feather blankets and stuff, and you were still always freezing. So yeah, then we also didn't have any phones. The only phones we had were like the payphones on the street. And those were every so often, you know, they were all over the place. And then the post office had like these little boxes where you could go into and talk on the phone, which is like pretty normal throughout the world, right? Those telephones like that. But other people also had telephones in their homes. So, and kind of like there was like the saying, somebody who had a phone, like if you could hear like a phone ring somewhere, you kind of like said, well, they're in the Stasi, you know. Those people always had phones. And when you could request the phone if you had like an illness or something like that would be life-threatening, right? So you could call the emergencies, like the ambulance. But that was, I think, the only reason why you would get a phone. And my mom did have that, like needed one, and we applied for a phone, still didn't get it. But yeah, so thankfully once I was 7, we moved into like a actually really new building, brand new apartment, and it was called Plattenbau, and the other one is called Altbau. So it's like a like I think it was from like pre-World War II building, like super old, probably made out of brick. And then this one was like out of cement, like these big sheets of cement that they built it out. That's why Plattenbau. So yeah, we were so excited. I remember how happy we were when we moved in there because we had like central heating. Like we had like these are like metal boxes for the heat up, the water would heat up the room right with that. So it was super modern, and we had like a nice kitchen and bathtub and everything, like super advanced for the time for us. And so we're so happy moving into that apartment. And our neighbor though was probably by the from the Stasi, so that was crazy. And yeah, And then another thing, so when we had to go to school, we had to wear a uniform, and it was like a white shirt and had like, if you had like the right, you didn't have to always have to have the uniform with like the little logo. There was like a little logo. It was called, we were young pioneers, and so it had like a JP logo. So, but if you didn't have that, if the shirt or whatever was being cleaned like in the laundry, you could also just wear a regular white shirt or something. And then like blue shorts or a girl's blue skirt. And then we had like this handkerchief that we had to make a special knot. Like the knot had to be perfect and had to be the special knot. And starting 5th grade, I think you would get a red handkerchief. And school was crazy because like they made you like sit like this on the table, right? And when you wanted to like participate or answer a question or something, you had to like raise your hand like this, like finger up in the air. So it was very strict. They didn't hit us or anything though, like it wasn't like that. So that was good. Oh yeah, and then every morning we had like one teacher who would teach the whole class everything. And every morning before class, like everybody took turns. So like I think weekly or daily, I'm not sure. I think every week somebody was assigned. So you would go up in the morning and you had to make sure you know all of the kids that were not in the class that day. And then so you would go up front to the class, say good morning, da-da-da is not here today. And then we would do this thing, salute. We had to do like our hand like this on our head. And we had to say, für Frieden und Sozialismus seid bereit, immer bereit. And it means for freedom and socialism, be ready, always ready. So they wanted us to fight for the country, right? Like defend it and stuff, like kind of tried to make us mini soldiers. Crazy stuff. And yeah, in sports too, we had to wear a special uniform and stuff. Everything was very structured, you know? And there wasn't really religion. Like you could be religious. There was a church too. I know a couple of the kids went to church, and there was a special class that they taught too for those kids. But majority of people were not religious. Communism doesn't really like the church, from what I understood. Yeah. Oh, and then the worst part of it for me as a kid was every summer my parents would send me off to summer camp, and I think it was like 2 weeks. So starting, I believe, 6 or 7. So maybe I just went, I went a couple of times, more than just 2 times. So yeah, it must have started sooner. Not sure. I went a couple of times. Maybe I went a couple of times a year. But the worst part was they would take us out to the woods during the day. And then they would make us guess distances. Well, how far is one tree from another, right? And then if you got it wrong, like you had to keep going back. And then they would always have other things they pointed to. And we had to, like, with our eyes, guess how far away something is. So they would train us on things like that. And now, like, as an adult, I was like, holy shit, they're, like, literally training us to be little soldiers. And then what they did, and this is why I hated it so much, this was always one night during the camp. And you didn't know what night. I think it was like 2 a.m. in the morning or something. Like everybody had to, of course, be in bed at like a certain time, right? So we all had to sleep. And it was always like a shared room where all the kids were in, but it says girls were separate from boys. And they would just come one night and wake us all up. And we had like our nightgowns on. And so they would just take us out into the woods. And the way we were dressed, we just got to put on our shoes. And they would have like one flashlight. They would separate you into twos. and one person got a flashlight. And so then they had like marked like a way on the trees or whatever, or like on the floor. I'm not really sure anymore, but like little signs on the trees or in the floor where you would have to like find your way, right? Like, so they would just disappear and you would have to find your way back to the camp. And but what they did along the way is they would have people looking like monsters or like ghosts and stuff, like having a white sheet on or whatever, and they just come out jumping at you, grabbing you and stuff. That was the worst. And to this day I cannot be scared. Like, if you scare me, like, I freaking hate you. Like, do not scare me. Yeah, that was a nightmare. And now as an adult, of course, like, I understand, like, they try to train us, right? Make sure that we are not scared and whatever, and are able to handle crazy situations like that, I guess. Nuts, just nuts. So yeah, I mean, there's so many more things I could talk about. Like, we had only black and white television, only 3 channels, and what else? Everything seemed gray. And if you talk to other people about this, everybody says that's the same thing. Everything seemed gray. There were no brand names allowed. So when you go to the store, it would just say buttermilk and all of that. You know, like, you didn't have options like you do now, right? Like, you had one of each basically. And oh yeah, and fruit, we only had what was growing in the east, right? So we didn't have any special things, but since Cuba was also communist, sometimes we would get a shipment, usually around Christmas time, we'd get a shipment of oranges. And so for Christmas, we would always make like in Germany, like a tradition, like a little plate with like chocolates and stuff and nuts. And also fruit. And then for us, there was like then an orange on there, you know, because it was so special to have oranges. And then sometimes a shipment of bananas would come in. And so when the bananas were coming, everybody went to the store, right? And there was a line like around the buildings and stuff, like so long. And then you either got lucky and got some, or they were already sold out by the time you got there. And bananas is my favorite fruit. And I think that's probably why, you know? Yeah, so crazy. So I remember after the wall fell and we went to the grocery store, all of a sudden they had like these crazy exotic fruits that I've never seen or heard of. And it was like you entered another world. It was like insane. Yeah, and then if you would wear like Levi jeans or something, because I mean, we did get mail and stuff from our family in the West, you know? We had like grandparents there and stuff. And so they would like my mom had grandparents, like my grandparents were all in the East. But my mom's grandparents, or grandma, I think it was. So she would send us like sometimes goodies and stuff and coffee and things like that from the West. And when she grew up and was a teenager, she would get like Levi jeans and stuff. And when she would wear those, like, she would always like had to go to the we call him principal, to the principal, and like take them off and wear them inside out and shit, and go home and change. And so just crazy rules. Can't even imagine. Yeah, and then of course the day the wall fell, October 9th, 89. Oh my God. Well, that's when it was allowed, like they were talking about it and stuff, and really fell November 9, I think. And on November 9th, when they finally opened up the gates to cross on the other side, that night my parents went. But me and my sister were already sleeping, so they didn't wake us up. And I just remember like waking up in the morning, and I wanted to get ready for school, and I saw all like the west German goodies and stuff, or Western goods really, like in the living room. I was like, what happened? So I woke him up and I was like, what's going on? And they're like, yeah, the wall's down, the wall's down. So we went last night, Blood told us what happened. And I couldn't believe it. I was like, what? And then on 11/11, 2 days later, my parents took us to, and we lived really, really close to the wall, but by the water. So the wall part started right after the water. And well, the waters probably continued the river Spree River. But anyways, there wasn't like a really high wall. The East Side Gallery, it's called now if you go to Berlin. So we lived close to the East Side Gallery, but more farther back on the water side. And so we could literally walk there to that part where it was open, and we could walk into Kreuzberg. And I remember it like yesterday, like it was insane. So we, what I remember is like seeing all of a sudden like a can of Coke on the floor. And I remember that it was Coke because of how bright it was, bright red and stuff. And then when we crossed, I mean, everybody was still going over there and stuff, and everybody was so happy. And 11/11 is also when Fasching starts. I don't know what you say in English, like carnival. And so everybody was dressed up as well, and everybody was just so happy. Like everybody was just happy. It was insane. And so we would go, that day we went to the bank to pick up our welcome money. Everybody got like 100 Deutschmark welcome money. And we waited in this long, long line of people in front of the bank to get our money. And I remember when I entered the bank, it was like magical. I felt like I entered a castle or something. Like it was this huge room, and it was so bright and beautiful, and glass windows everywhere, and nothing I've ever seen before. It's just beautiful. I just remember being mesmerized how pretty it was. And yeah, and then we got our money, and of course spent it right away on Western goods and stuff the next day. Yeah, it was great. Best time of my life, really. Like nothing would have turned out this way how it is now for me, so my life would have totally been different. So glad it fell. Yeah. There's probably so many other things I could mention and talk about, but yeah, if you're interested, you have some questions, post them in the comments. I'll try to answer when I can, or maybe I'll think about more things. I could make another video if it's an interesting topic. We'll see how everybody responds to this, but yeah, anyways, that's just what I wanted to talk about, because I saw that movie last night, and like really was very emotional. Like it really brought back all those memories and stuff, and like wow. But yeah, that's it. My life in East Berlin as a young pioneer. Oh, and one thing I wanted to mention too is that thankfully, thanks to the fall of the wall, is I learned English instead of Russian. That year it fell, like I was about to start Russian. I was already dreading it, because I saw my friends learning it and like how to write those letters, and so I was like, oh my god, no, I don't want to learn this. And then thankfully I didn't have to. But yeah, okay, so that's it. Bye.